Hello and welcome to Green Pass Gaming's midweek catch-up. I'm your host Flap, and today I'm joined, as always, by Puxley. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Flap. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been a bit of a crazy week, as we know. I mean, we did a podcast on Sunday, and we did an emergency one on Monday. Little did we know that was coming.
Yes.
It's been a bit of a news week. So today's show, just basically a catch-up of the week, what we think about it, what's happened. Probably not massive amount of details that probably not already out in the general wide public anyway, but we thought we'd give you our spin on things. And first off, we have to start with Monday, I guess, and the total wipeout news that was Microsoft buying Bethesda, or ZeniMax to be accurate.
Well, yeah, but what crazy news this was. I mean, none of us expected to drop it. And I think what was even funnier, you mentioned it on the Monday show, that, on the Sunday show, that, I don't think there's really much more information that these companies could offer. And then, bam,
Yeah.
we were hit with that one.
Yeah, I made the mistake of saying that it's just going to be a slow trickle of news now, between obviously now and launch. And then, then Monday happened. And
it all went wild, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter went nuts, as you can imagine. And I think what it did for most people is it just completely sideswiped them and just took them by surprise. But the other thing that it absolutely did, and it did for me personally, is it's like it puts you in this strange sort of, well, what's going to happen next? Because if that's happened, then basically anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people immediately started jumping on the bandwagon of, does this mean that all Bethesda games, is Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Starfield, all these other big hitters which people across the console spectrum want to play, are they now going to become first-party exclusives? And are, I think, games like Deathloop and Ghostwire going to be non-exclusives anymore, or timed exclusives? And the answer is nope. Microsoft are going to honor those contracts that are already in place. And although they did then say that future games will be released on Xbox, PC, and other consoles on a case-by-case basis. So it does make you wonder what the future plans are.
It does. And to be honest, like you say, Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop are the only ones that we absolutely know aren't going to be touched with regards to their exclusivity deal with PS5. But going forwards, I think most people are assuming, and I think we actually said this on our Monday Emergency Excitement Monday podcast that we've never done before. We mentioned that we've the games as a service, so things like Elder Scrolls Online and obviously Fallout 76 will probably stay multi-platform because they are cash generators, and it would probably be a bit silly they're fairly well established as well. So it'd be silly for Microsoft to rip that out of a pre-existing ecosystem. But also, it's just generating cash ticking along in the background. So that's quite nice for Microsoft.
I mean, these IPs are such big hitters throughout the last, 10 to 20 years, when the first and second ones came out, and then it all kind of blew up when Morrowind got released back on the original Xbox. And of course, that was kind of the beginnings of Bethesda, or ZeniMax, we want to say, and Xbox working together to bring that to the system. And they've kind of generated this ever-growing relationship ever since. So I think in hindsight, now that we've had a time to digest the information and really kind of take it in and think about it, it makes sense why the acquisition was probably the best thing for each of the companies. If it was anyone else, I think people would probably throw a bit of an uproar. But those two seem to be as tight as glue together. So I think it makes perfect sense.
Did you see the video with Major Nelson, Phil, Todd Howard, and Peter Hines?
I've seen clips of it, but I don't really know an awful lot about it, I'm afraid.
Well, if you watch that video, and anyone watching this that hasn't seen it, I advise you to go and watch it. I think it's about 50 minutes long, I think, from memory, but you only need to see about 5-10 minutes, and you can just see how close they all are, particularly Phil, Todd, and Pete. They're just buddies. You can just tell. They've got that sort of click and the aura, and it's an absolutely right thing to happen, I think. And despite obviously Sony fans getting a little bit concerned because, as you say, these are big hitters, we don't know what's going to happen. And Microsoft, they want to make sure that you have a reason to buy Game Pass, and this is a pretty good reason to buy Game Pass in my.
Well, that's a really good point as well to bring up Game Pass, because it's now been confirmed that all future games moving forward, well, the current library and potentially the past library might eventually make their way to Game Pass, but all future titles to be released will be Game Pass day one as its first-party title. So it just increases the value of Game Pass tenfold, I'd say.
Well, we have Doom Eternal coming soon, don't we? When does Doom Eternal hit?
Yeah, so this kind of dropped today. So Doom Eternal is going to be coming to consoles and supposedly Android/xCloud as well. on October 1st. So in, I
Nice.
think, just over a week's time. And
Yeah,
then
that's good.
it's coming to PC at a later date in 2020 is all we know so far.
Okay, well that's good. I mean,
It's a start.
straight away, yeah, it's exactly. So we had this news land Monday, and Thursday we've already had something come out of it. So it's not one of these acquisitions that Microsoft buy and then we've got to wait 6, 8, 12 months before we see any benefit. It's happening straight away. So that's quite
And Doom
nice.
Eternal is the newest release, isn't it? It came out earlier this year, didn't it? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good game as well. I like that game.
Yeah.
So, without lingering on Bethesda, we will be touching on the Sunday podcast. But Tuesday, then we had the pre-orders happen.
What? I mean, we had the issues with the PlayStation 5 pre-orders and a bit of the backward that was. And is it right to say that we kind of had that again, just with a bit more notice this time?
Yes, yeah, that's a fair point. So Microsoft held their guns. They stuck to their guns, and they stuck with the 22nd, obviously, as a launch date. And they also made sure that they were going to penalise any retailers that broke the embargo and started selling these early. And as far as I'm aware, in the UK, everyone stuck to that. So 8 a.m. they went live, and it seemed to be 8 a.m. when all of the servers went live, and then promptly crashed. I was lucky enough to get a couple of actually Series X's, one for myself, one for my partner. So yeah, she couldn't get hold of one, and I was lucky enough to get hold of one as well. So that happened, but I know there's lots of disappointed people out there.
Did you manage to get that through All Access? Because I know that was an option for a lot of people, or was this outright?
No, they were both outright, and I did actually want one on All Access. My initial purchase I wanted on All Access, and I'd managed to bag a direct payment off Microsoft, and that was my kind of backup plan. And unfortunately, all of the All Access servers seemed to crash, because I know Smith's Toys in the UK and Game in the UK, their service just crashed for about 6 hours, I believe. They just couldn't come back, and then when they did, the All Access part just wasn't working for me at all. And by the time it kind of was working, they were all out of stock. I know the US had similar problems. I don't think the retailers were ready for the All Access program, to be honest. And if we can critique Microsoft, they should have probably handled that better. But they are doing this in the first place, which is a very good service. So they will get it fixed. I think
there was another story as well. I think even Australia, sold out in, I think it was less than 5 minutes was the official figure. It was something crazy. And I think a load of websites there also crashed as well. So
it just shows the demand. I suspect that, there's normally several waves with these things. And, wave one tends to be the day oneers, as we call them, the hardcore. And I know for a fact that not all of wave one have been satisfied yet. So, there is going to need to be another influx of machines coming in. I know very.co.uk, a website, actually found some more down the back of the sofa, actually, and I tweeted it earlier. And within 15 minutes, they were all gone as well. So I think we will start seeing a trickle. Yeah. And there was some Series S's that had turned up as well. On PC World tomorrow. What's the date today? The 24th. So 24th, on the 25th of September, PC World in the UK, we'll have some more Series S's. I apologise. This is obviously a UK-centric topic, but I'm not so up on the American retailers, unfortunately.
Well, I suppose moving us on a little bit as well is that the 25th, tomorrow, is actually when the Japanese pre-orders go live for both the Xbox Series X and S. And of course, today we had the Tokyo Game Show.
We did have the Tokyo Game Show. And did you see much of it?
I did. I missed the first 10 or so minutes, unfortunately, but I did manage to watch the rest of it. And from what I could see, it was basically a rerun, right? Effectively, with some more of the Japanese like industry employees and figureheads in there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was obviously we didn't understand the language, and there was lots of people in there. We didn't know who they were or what they were saying. To be fair, I was surprised there wasn't translation. There certainly wasn't on the stream that I watched. I watched it.
No, not for me either.
I've got a list of a few bits here. Phil Spencer made a speech at the beginning, and he actually said Japan was the fastest growing region worldwide for Xbox at the moment. So that's quite interesting, because obviously Xbox have traditionally struggled in Japan, shall we say. I think that's probably putting it kindly. But to know that that's actually the fastest growing region for Xbox is quite interesting. So,
and they made a big statement, didn't they, about they're bringing Game Pass to Japan in 2021 and updating all of their Japanese data centers to make sure they can support.
Yeah, they said the first. Well, they said Game Pass is coming to Japan in the first half of 2021, which is quite a big
Okay, yeah.
window, isn't it? It's just a big 6-month window
Yeah.
they've bought themselves there. So hopefully it's sooner rather than later. One thing I did notice, well, we did have Balan Wonderworld. I quite liked seeing that. I mean,
Yep, I really like the look of that game.
I'm a big Sega fan, and it just
Yeah.
completely took me back to Nights into Dreams and things like that. Even the fact that there was a scene where you're flying and you actually fly through rings of gold collectibles, just like Nights into Dreams.
Yeah.
But one thing that did stand out for me, and I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a trailer for Pragmata.
Yes, so we had seen this before, hadn't we?
Where have we seen that before?
I'm pretty sure it was in the May showcase.
No, I think it was on the Sony showcase.
Was it the Sony showcase?
I think it was.
That'd be interesting if that is the case.
It is. Yeah, I think it was. And that's why I bring it up, because it's very odd to see the same game on two different platform holders showcases.
Yeah.
So perhaps we need to just double check that. But I'm sure we saw it on the Sony one, to be honest. That's a Capcom game.
That's coming out in 2022, isn't it, as well, I believe? So
yes.
a bit of a wait for that one.
Yeah, bit of a wait on that one. There were two Tetris games, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 and Tetris Effect. And the other one that surprised me was Bright Memory Infinite. Did you see that trailer?
Yes, and this, to be fair, this is something I've actually followed for a little while now. So it was effectively a solo developed game by a guy in China. I believe he has more recently outsourced some of the work to assist him, as well because he's working with Xbox to help to bring it to the system. But yeah, it's effectively been a solo effort, and I say it's made an Unreal Engine 4 as well, and you can just see the passion that's been put into this game, right? I mean, the graphical quality, fidelity, and even just the general gameplay and the story, it just looks phenomenal, especially when you consider it's done by effectively a single person.
No, I completely agree, but there was something a little bit different about what we saw. I mean, we saw some extra things in the Tokyo Game Show, but the one thing that we did see is we actually saw much more of a heads-up display. It looked like there was sort of arcade-style points being scored and multipliers.
Yes, I did notice that. Yeah.
Now, we didn't see that back in the May showcase, did we? So that's kind of new and took my eye, actually. So perhaps it's a bit more arcadey than we might think. Don't know. And then we had R-Type Final 2 and Scarlet Nexus. They're not my bag. R-Type, is that your sort of thing, side scroller?
It's not. I think this is from what I've seen and heard on the internet and general kind of discussion boards in the past. I think those kind of games do tend to have more favor in the Eastern markets than they do in the West.
Makes total sense.
That's from what I've seen. Yeah,
makes total sense. And if you're going to show it, then TGS is the place to show. And of course, there was Flight Sim as well. They did quite a lot of Flight Sim and Minecraft. Minecraft got many minutes, which surprised me. I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised. Or am I? Yeah, I think I am surprised that Minecraft is perhaps so popular in Japan. Actually,
well, I think it's quite popular the world over, isn't it? Especially with children. I think, at least here in the UK and a lot of other countries, it's now used in schools as well to promote computer science, and starting to use, keyboard and mice, all that kind of stuff. And I'd like to maybe assume that it's maybe having a similar effect there as well. Because if we're talking about the small Raspberry Pi computers, if you know what they are, if you want to get into things like computer science and electronics learning, they that has its own Minecraft kind of game built into it, which you can actually modify using Python scripting. So it's a way to enable you to learn some kind of basic coding techniques as well as enjoy playing Minecraft. And what better way to entice kids than modifying Minecraft with code?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it is. Yeah. It's a good way in, isn't it? And one thing that was completely missing was Microsoft buying Sega.
Yes, this kind of made a lot of headway on Twitter for the last couple of days. I mean, there was, I think the most recent clip I saw or picture was, I think someone took a color picker graph of the controller, a color picker plot of the Sega with the Sonic in the middle, and gone, it's the same hexadecimal number.
It was very a hint. It was very selective, and anyone that knows Photoshop inside out would know that that doesn't prove anything. But having said that, though, there is obviously something there, because obviously Microsoft have been hinting quite strongly a link towards Sonic, I believe. And nothing's been mentioned yet. And obviously, Sonic have got their showcase tomorrow. Sega have got their showcase tomorrow. Don't know.
What was also more interesting is that there was like an abrupt resignation from the current Sega president, is it?
That was on. I think that was July the 31st. If you looked at the timing, that was a little while ago. But that was still, yeah, I don't know. There's something going on, but I think and perhaps I got swept up in the hype as well. And I'd love Microsoft to buy Sega. And what I was really hoping for was some Dreamcast games coming to the Xbox platform.
Yeah.
My God.
I mean, personally, I was quite surprised to see that people were. I don't want to say they were wrong for believing it, but I personally couldn't believe that they would acquire Sega, maybe have a close partnership with them, and maybe Sega games become I don't know whether it's Xbox timed exclusive or something like that. But I personally found it a bit hard to believe that maybe Xbox would also be acquiring Sega.
Well, you say that, but that's the problem with Monday's news, isn't it? Because, like I say, it left everyone spinning on their heels, and you just don't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Because I've got to be honest, I think Microsoft buying Sega 2-3 weeks ago seemed more likely than them buying ZeniMax, if I'm honest.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
and here we are. But
anyway. There's also more murmurings. Not murmurings, but then people are saying, PlayStation should buy Konami and all these other things. So
Ubisoft and
who knows? Yeah.
So moving on outside of TGS, we've got some other little bits and bobs news-wise, haven't we? I often, and we're going to discuss this on Sunday's podcast. Actually, I'm not convinced Microsoft are looking at Sony or perhaps worried so much about Sony as they are perhaps Google and Amazon when it comes to the gaming space, particularly mobile gaming space and streaming gaming space. I think Microsoft, they're aiming for the sky. And I think perhaps one of the reasons they did purchase Bethesda, other than it being a great deal for both, was perhaps to stop Google buying them or someone like Amazon. And we've had some interesting news today, Pux. What's that all about?
Yeah, so this news dropped earlier today. So Amazon are now jumping into the cloud gaming space with a service they call Amazon Luna. This is a service there's a picture of it here. So this is a service being released only in America to start off with. And this is a service which is currently going to start at $5.99 per month. And interestingly, something which is apparently already been confirmed also is that Assassin's Creed Valhalla is going to be coming to this service. There is some words that this may be an extra cost, but this is not yet confirmed from what I could see so far. But it seems that there's an interesting number of kind of early titles coming to this service. So apparently it's going to include a growing library of games, including Resident Evil 7, Control, A Plague Tale: Innocence, at up to 4K 60 for select titles as well. So,
well, I mean, it is interesting. And, Stadia, people kind of write Stadia off, and I appreciate why they do. And compared to what Microsoft's doing, it's not a very good deal whatsoever. But what I don't think anyone can or should do is certainly, rule out Google, because like Microsoft, they have plenty of bucks in the bank, and they can change, and they just need to fix the things that are broken. And if, we can throw lots of criticisms at Microsoft, but they are slowly turning this, huge ship round. And the good ship Microsoft is heading in a very good direction at the moment. And I think it would be wrong to assume Google wouldn't do the same.
Now, here's a very interesting point as well about Amazon Luna. So it's going to be available on PC, Mac, Fire TV, and web apps for iPhone and iPad is what it says here in front of me. So whether or not this is native, it doesn't sound like it's native use as an app on the App Store. But so it says specifically through a web app. So whether this is like a Chrome extension that you play it through instead, and maybe that's how they can circumvent the Apple policy issues when it comes to game cloud streaming. I don't know.
That's an interesting take, and is possibly one Microsoft might be able to exploit if it ever came to it. But I didn't know. That's an interesting point. So and we've had some other news today around Xbox Series X and S and the expandable storage.
Yes, I think this is going to have turned a few heads, I think.
Well, I think it will, but possibly for the wrong reasons. But go on. Tell us about the SSD.
So the official prices for the 1 terabyte Seagate storage expansion for Xbox Series X and S has been the price has been revealed. And here in the UK, it's currently listed as £220. In America, it's $220. And for the rest of Europe, it's €250. which is a very interesting take. Of course, there's no conversion here at all. It's direct £220 to $20, and it's just like, well, hold on a minute.
Well, when you
Why are we paying
consider,
more?
yeah, so just for comparison, obviously the Xbox Series X is $499 and 449 Great British pounds. So there's a £50 stroke dollar difference there. But for this SSD, they're the same price. And obviously, you know, they're, like you said, there's no currency conversion going on there. But the other one that really stands out for me is that Europe are getting charged more again, because when you looked at Sony's games, those prices were coming in €10 more than the dollar equivalent, and that doesn't equate when you put it through the currency calculations. It seems a little bit odd.
It does make you wonder why. None of us really know the reason why this is. I mean, are there maybe there's no more? I mean, I know in the UK I know the gaming industry does get things like tax breaks now. That is a thing, but I don't know if that necessarily applies for commercial products like this. That's usually for software, I believe, when it comes to those tax breaks in the industry here in the UK. So yeah, I don't know. And as you say, I mean, if especially if you're in Europe, if you're paying almost the same for, I don't mean this seriously, but rather than getting just the expansion card, it's like, why not just buy a Series S and have a second console? Because you have cloud saving, right?
Oh, so that's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's a good point. So
between consoles, so just buy a second console.
Well, I mean, the size of the card, I mean, they're 1 terabyte, aren't they? But and they are hot swappable apparently. But what you probably don't need one, because you can actually plug in a USB 3 SSD or even a mechanical drive, I believe, and use that as storage. So I believe you can run Xbox One, Xbox One X games natively from a USB 3 SSD or even a mechanical drive. I believe you can run them from there. If you wanted to play Series X games, you have to transfer them to the internal SSD, but you can store them on external media like an SSD or a mechanical drive, even, I believe.
I think this is an important point as well, because I think especially like 1 terabyte external hard disk drives, I mean, they are pretty cheap now, like USB 3 ones as well. So, and it's already also been confirmed that you can run original Xbox and Xbox 360 games alongside Xbox One games you already mentioned. They can run natively from the mechanical drives, apparently, because they don't need that quick read-write speeds.
Yeah,
and you can store Series S and X games on those mechanical drives, but you just need to transfer them to the internal SSD memory before you can play them. So it's not like there are cheaper options out there, I think is the point here, isn't it?
I can't imagine anyone would absolutely, desperately need an extra, Series X SSD. It seems. And there's been another actually announcement that there's been an update that you can actually download games that you don't own anymore. Seems a little bit odd, doesn't it? But you can. It's kind of a pre-download, so you can download them. You just can't play them. Now, what's the point? If you did purchase them at some point in the future, or if there were pre-orders and stuff, then the moment you've purchased it, you're then able to play the game without having to wait for it to download. So basically, it's quite a good idea.
A lot of people on Twitter threads get confused about this. They say, "Oh, but preloading has existed for a long time now." Yes, it has for digital downloads, but not necessarily for physical media. And as you just said there, like, it's nice to know that I can pre-order my physical disc if I have a Series X, but I can download the game data. And because, bearing in mind, if you buy a disc now, this is important to note for those who may not be aware, that physical media discs now the games don't run from the disc anymore. They are installed onto the internal memory, and the PS4 and the Xbox One do that now as well, just because the disc drives are now too slow for the read-write speeds which are required.
So I mean, the physical disc is just basically a key to the door that allows you to play it. So well, I think we've done everything, Pucks. Like I say, my God, what a week this has been.
We up and downs,
well, we had to pull an emergency podcast on Monday. That's on the channel if you want to check that. It's called an Emergency Excitement Podcast after Monday's news.
Yes.
We've got our podcast coming up this Sunday. We've actually got 3 months worth of Game Pass Ultimate to give away this Sunday. So please tune in. And if you want to win that to go with your new Series S or X, tune in and we'll be giving 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate away to one lucky viewer. You need to be in the live chat for that. So get involved. We've got some great guests coming up, and hopefully we'll see you there. So
we've got one more comment to make as well, actually.
Go on.
So, for those of the Green Pass gaming community, if you would like to interact with us or with other people of the community outside of the live shows, we have now set up an Xbox Club using the Xbox Club's service. So, if you'd like to join that and take part in that, and hopefully that will grow over time, you can find that directly on Xbox Clubs on the console by searching Green Pass Gaming, or you can use the Xbox Console Companion app on PC. And again, navigate to Xbox Clubs and you can search for Green Pass Gaming and you can request an invite from there.
Exactly, yep. And our details are on the screen now if you want to follow us on Twitter or our gamer tags on Xbox. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you can. If you like what you've seen today, that always goes a long way. We'd be very, very, very grateful. And without any further ado, that's it from us. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.